Hello and a warm welcome back to the channel of nonsense. This is a Cupra Born, and you might be mistaken for thinking it's just a Volkswagen ID3 in traditional Spanish dress, whatever that looks like. No, not that. Someone should tell the Spanish. But anyway, the ID3 left me feeling a little bit cold, but this, in the week that I've been living with it, has got under my skin more than I was expecting. So I'm going to take you for a walk around to a full driving review and find out why I think this is better than a Volkswagen ID3, despite ostensibly being quite similar. Sorry about that. I did say before I started filming today that I'd try not to do any stupid Spanish references. But anyway, hola, this thing is actually born in Zwickau in Germany, where they make the ID3 as well. It's an all-electric hatchback that costs £36,475, and it joins the Cupra lineup alongside the Formentor, the Leon and the Ateca. But this really is what Cupra is going to be all about. The Born lineup is pretty straightforward. There's a V1, a V2 and a V3. There are your trim levels, and there's also two battery sizes, a 58 kilowatt hour or this, which is the bigger 77 kilowatt hour. And the range on the smaller battery is 264 miles on paper, and on the bigger battery 341 miles, but actually it's more like 300 in this. Turn the air conditioning off and you will get over 300 on a full charge. And there are two power levels as well, 204 horsepower or 230 horsepower, which is only available in the UK on the bigger battery. And that 230 horsepower, you can't actually get that motor in the Volkswagen ID3, so this should be sportier, which is the whole point of Cupra. It was that brand that was spun off of Seat to be sporty and stand alone and target younger people. Talking of electricity, you can charge this one at 135 kilowatts. That'll get you from 5 to 80% charge in 36 minutes. The smaller battery charges slightly slower at 120 kilowatts. And on the topic of electrons and stuff, Cupra says this is delivered to the dealer net neutral, net CO2 neutral. So yeah, in terms of looks, it does look very different to the ID3 from the front. The side profile's fairly similar. I like how it's got this kind of folded over nose. It's quite a snub nose thing in profile. This has got big 20-inch wheels. The V2 I think gets 19, the V1 gets 18-inch alloy wheels. And they're kind of, I don't know if you can see that, might be a bit dark. They're kind of this cool aero design. That, yeah, that's plastic. That's metal, so you can probably pull these bits, there you go, you can probably pull them off if you try hard enough. But I love this colour, and I really like the fact I'm still overexposed. I really like these copper accents down there. It just is a bit Iron Man, isn't it? And that is the fairly familiar now, I guess, Cupra badge, and it does actually say Cupra on it, so people will know what it is. They didn't on the Cupra Ateca really until they stuck Cupra on the back, and it doesn't actually say Born anywhere on it. Well, that's almost anywhere. That's a bit of a lie, excuse my crap, but it does say Born there. That's the only place I've found it, which is interesting if you're a nerd like me. But yeah, it is 4.32 meters long, so this is where it really does start being very similar to the ID3, and it weighs just under 2 tons. Around the back you've got some quite cool little diamond pattern there, which is mirrored on the glove box. I'll show you that in a bit. And that is the back of it. Sorry, I'm shooting into the sun. I'm no James Cameron, am I? But yeah, I think it looks quite nice. It's got less of a bum draggy look. I think often EVs look a bit low at the bum, and this one doesn't. It's got a little diffusory type looking thing there, and it's got what Cupra quite amusingly calls a coast-to-coast tail line. That's not a TV documentary series on BBC of a Scottish man with a beard. It is just a full width light bar. The boot opens by flicking the badge like this. It's not electrically operated, and it's 385 litres. You can see I've got a really small fold up pram in there. That folds up to hand luggage size. So I could probably have fitted my monster bugaboo in there, but it's a really decent space, and it's got all the cables in there. If you look under the boot floor, there is actually space for cables there, so they don't need to actually be in there. And you've got a little through loading hatch, split folding rear seats. Also, look at that, you've got a 12 volt socket there, That's about it, but it's actually quite a useful boot. It's about the same as on a Golf. I should also point out while we're doing this that there's no frunk on the Born, just a pile of stuff. But anyway, let me show you the back seats, because as I said, I've been living with this for a week. Oh yeah, charging flat. So that is the back seat space, really easy to fit 2 child seats in. That is a baby seat, and around the other side I've got my toddler seat. Sorry, overexposed bit while I moved the camera. There we go. Toddler seat, fits in loads of room, and the seat kicking score for this car, I would give this 7 out of 10. Not very kicked to death. Maybe my toddler is just getting better at stuff. But anyway, I'll hop in and show you what a 6'3" adult looks like in the back of a Cupra Born. Right, I'm in the back of the Cupra Born. If I shut the door, and yeah, I have got room. I've got loads of headroom. I've got plenty of knee room. That seat is in my driving position, but I'm a bit limited on foot room. But I've got pretty clumpy boots on, to be honest. There's a little pocket there for sticking bits and bobs in, and you won't be able to see, but by the cow toy down there, he's guarding 2 USB-C slots, and the ISOFIX points are really easy to find as well. And you don't feel claustrophobic because the windows are really quite big. And I've got electric window switches down here, which I'll talk about more when we go up front. There's something quite interesting about the window switches for the driver. But anyway, back here, pretty good. Basically, this was meant to be the electric Golf for Volkswagen, the ID3, and this is as practical as a Golf, but nicer than the Volkswagen version of the electric version of the Golf. It's nicer than an ID3, that's what I'm trying to say. One of the main reasons I didn't love the ID3 was down to its interior. Volkswagen tried to be really minimalist, taking away lots of buttons, and actually just made it quite confusing to use in the process. And this rectifies some of those problems. The steering wheel, let's start with that. It is flat bottomed for sportiness, and it's got a little button down there, that bronze ringed button with a Cupra logo on it. That puts it straight into Cupra driving mode, which sharpens up the throttle response. And if you've got adaptive dampers, which are an option, which this car doesn't have, stiffens them up. And the other button down there, that changes between all your other driving modes. It's fine. It has got haptic controls on the steering wheel, which have gone off, so I can't show you, so I'll stick a shot of those in. You have to slide your thumb. Look, when the car's off, it's just black plastic, but they are actually buttons on there, and you have to slide your fingers over them to do the volume for the radio. And I have found that when I'm going around corners with my hands crossed up on the steering wheel, I sometimes turn the radio up and down by accident. Other bits of the interior I quite like this diamond punched bit of plastic across the top of the glove box. That mimics the details we saw on the outside of the car. On the rear 3/4 panel, you've got a wireless charger here, and you've got a cavernous, don't know if that's going to show up or if it's going to be too dark, a cavernous storage space down there with 2 more USB-Cs in. I actually dropped my keys in there, I couldn't find them for half a year. Had to stick a head torch on to go and find them. And you get big door bins, and one thing I do want to show you is the glove box. It's a bit crap, to be honest. It's only a half-width glove box. I guess there's a fuse box or something under there, but yeah, not a very big glove box. And this bit here slides shut quite nicely. You have to excuse the slightly close-up shot. I've had to actually sit in the seat to turn the infotainment on. As soon as I get out of the seat, it thinks I've left the car, and so I can't film it from the back seats. But anyway, you get a nice diddy little driver's display, same as in the ID3, and it just shows you your speed, your range, the percentage charge in your driving mode, the time, and the temperature. That stuff is all very useful. I don't really need anything more than that. Now, the steering wheel has come to life because I'm sitting here, so you can see the buttons on it. So to turn the volume up there, you kind of have to put your thumb in the middle of this and then slide it up and down. It kind of vibrates and clicks to do the volume. Not a massive fan of that. And this view button does switch between 2 slightly different views of that display. It's a bit rubbish, to be honest. What is very good, you won't be able to see, maybe you will, the head-up display fitted to, I think it's V2 and V3 models. It's great, it's really clear, shows you your speed obviously and the speed limit, but also shows you an augmented reality lane departure thing. So if you start drifting over towards the white line, it will put an orange line over that white line in your field of view. It's very clever. So it actually shows you, I don't know how it does it, but it basically sticks an orange line on the head-up display, which lays over the white line that you're about to transgress on the King's Highway, shit, got it wrong. Anyway, infotainment system, still don't love this version of Volkswagen Group's infotainment system, especially because it keeps turning the volume up, which is going to get me a copyright strike. And these little temperature controls here, as usual, aren't backlit, so you can't see them at night, and it's just a bit faffy. And it does a weird disconnecty thing with my Apple CarPlay, where it disconnects and reconnects all the time, and I'm not using CarPlay, which turns the radio off. And you have to go up here to get to all the climate controls. If I turn air conditioning off, my range goes up by 11 miles. gives you about an extra 5% if you turn it off, but obviously then you start sweating. Otherwise, it's got wireless Apple CarPlay, it's reasonably quick and responsive and easy to use. And you can see my driving data, he says, here. Again, takes a little while to load. I've been getting 4.8 miles per kilowatt hour. Have I? That's quite good, isn't it? I should also say this screen is 12 inches, and that's actually 2 inches bigger than the biggest one you can get in the ID3, but it's 1 inch smaller than the one you get in the Skoda Enyaq. And Cupra does actually tell you the resolution. It's 1560 by 700 pixels, which is quite nerdy. It's quite a computer game thing to say, and that probably tells you the audience that Cupra is aiming this car at. The voice commands in this car work by shouting, "Hola, hola!" which feels a bit silly. I really think Volkswagen should steal that idea and make you shout "Achtung, Achtung" to do the same thing. As with the ID3, you put it into gear by twisting this little knobbly thing here. When I had the ID3 at first, I always got this the wrong way around and nearly drove into things, but I'm used to it now. Backwards for reverse, that way for forwards. Click in for park. You have to excuse my gimbal shadow, but these seats are worth talking about. They're this Dynamica suede cloth, which is kind of a recycled artificial suede, as seen in the Porsche Taycan and C8 Corvette. Lesser models also get seats which I think are made out of recycled ocean plastic. Right, here's one thing that does annoy me about the ID3 and the Cupra Born. It is the mirror switch. Look, it's not a physical, you can just turn it round and round forever. So you have to switch between left and right. It's not a physical, oh, it's on left, it's on right. You just have to, yeah, you just have to work it out. It's a bit fiddly. Also, you've only got 2 window switches. If I want to control the rear ones, you have to touch rear, which again isn't a physical button. You just have to listen to a pop, played through the car speakers, and then it operates the rear windows, and then press it again. Just give us 4 window switches. I mean, this is clearly just cost cutting at the kind of, for the sake of saying, oh, it's actually, it's more high tech. Yeah, try doing that when you're driving along without taking your eyes off the road. You can't. Rant over. That's probably enough about the interior of the Cupra Born. Let's take it for a drive and find out if it feels electrifying and Spanish and all of those other things that Cupra probably wants me to say about this car. Or does it feel like an ID3 that's eaten a lot of tapas? If you want to go for a drive in a Cupra Born, you just hop in with the key in your pocket. You don't have any start button to press, nothing as basic as that. You just twist that into D and it goes, and then you can go. First things first, it's a very easy car to drive, very easy to see out of, apart from slightly thick pillars at the back of the car, but show me a modern car that doesn't have that problem. It's very easy to modulate the power in comfort mode. The accelerator makes you go as fast as you think you're going to go. Unless you put it in Cupra mode, then it's a bit, yeah, it's a bit more sensitive, so you'll be like, oh! And it does feel fast. 230 horsepower in this one. Good for a 0 to 62 time of 7 seconds. It's not actually the fastest version of the Born. If you get the smaller battery one of those versions is actually faster than this because the battery's lighter, so it does 0 to 62 in 6.6 seconds. But really, who's counting? They're all rear wheel drive, which is why I did a little bit of skid on that cow poo when I accelerated it. And it has got a sport traction control mode, which I think does a little bit more skiddiness or torque vectoring. But anyway, yeah, it's a single motor, so it's not got a crazy rate of acceleration from a standstill, but it's still decent, and it's just up there with basically every other normal electric car. The brakes, if I was going to level a criticism at this car about the way it drives, it'd be the brakes. You have to push them quite a lot harder than you think to get them to work. I wonder if it's because the first bit of the brake travel does regeneration, and then you get to the physical discs at the end of the brake pedal travel. But yeah, I've gone further out into junctions than is ideal when I first started driving this. And if you've got to an emergency stop, just stamp on the brake pedal like you would normally. It's not really a problem, it just takes a bit of adjustment. But otherwise, it's a very easy car to drive. As I said, if I twist this from D into B, it gives you some regeneration. You can't change the level of it, so far as I know, but it will bring you pretty much to a stop just by letting off the accelerator. So it's kind of a one pedal driving mode. But yeah, anyway, let's get out onto some motorway 70-mile-an-hour limit, and I'll talk about refinement at a cruise. Not like a Jane McDonald cruise, but you know, not that kind of cruise either. Just a normal motorway cruise. Stop being a pervert. Or a Jane McDonald fan, which I think is the same thing. Right, I know at least one of you is interested in how a rear-wheel drive electric car handles a gravel car park when you accidentally put full lock on and boot it when you're in ESC Sport mode? Well, shall we find out? It skids for about a nanosecond and then it stops. So I think ESC Sport just makes it feel a little bit more aggressive on the power out of corners. It won't actually let you do skids. I don't think you can turn it fully off either. But anyway, let's go and do some more relevant testing. Right, we're going to go from a 50 limit up to a 70 mile an hour limit, which is the speed limit here in the United Kingdom, which now has a king, which is apt, isn't it? No roll round there. I've booted it, that's 55, that's 60, 65 and 70 miles an hour. So yeah, it's got quite impressive acceleration when you're already rolling along at 50 miles an hour. It doesn't like kick you in the back of the head like a deranged donkey when you put your foot down. And yeah, sitting at 70 and a bit miles an hour, it's pretty quiet. Obviously there's no petrol engine to distract you from tyre noise, so my ears are picking up the tyre noise, but there's not really much wind noise, and I'm not having to shout either. The ride, I'm going to talk about the ride now before we get onto the country road. The suspension, because it's an electric car and therefore it is heavy and all that weight is down low, you get the same sensation in this car that you get in many other electric cars. And that's one of it being a little bit wallowy and over even fairly small bumps at any speed in town or at high speed. You just feel like your bits are jiggling around a little bit. It's a little bit unpleasant and it does make me feel a bit queasy, but it's not unique to this car. It's an electric car problem. In fact, the only electric cars I've driven that don't really give you that feeling are things on expensive air suspension. But anyway, yeah, it's fine for motorway journeys, is what I'm trying to say. The adaptive cruise control is quite clever as well. It works with the sat-nav, so it can set an appropriate speed for the road layout up ahead, so it knows if there's junctions, roundabouts and things like that coming, and it speeds up and takes you flying through the air across them, or it sensibly slows down. I'll let you pick which one of those you think is actually a fact. But anyway, let's do some twisty roads. Right, I'm going to brake from 70 miles an hour to 40 going down this road, and yeah, you can't just really lightly brush the brake pedal, you have to give it a little bit of weight behind it. Right, we're in Cupra mode, ESC Sport, on a little twisty but not very fast road. And yeah, it's not like mega fun to drive. And I know Cupra is meant to be the sportier of the brands, but it's got loads of grip. The steering is direct, it's good. But there's no Porsche Taycan. And when you do boot it out of a corner, I would say you do sense it's rear wheel drive. You just feel like you're being pushed and like the car's nose tightens into the corner ever so slightly. When you do it, it's not skidding, it just feels rear wheel drive. But yeah, as a package, I like it. I should point out that the range readout is always pretty accurate. That's a nice red Triumph bobber. Oh no, it's a CCM bobber. Sorry, motorbike channel. Tim Reddy Rides Motorbikes. Go and check that out. I've just been on holiday and done a European road trip. But sorry, Cupra Born, I like it. It's fun to drive, gives you an accurate range readout. It does do a legit 300 miles to a charge, this bigger battery one. And yeah, much prefer it to the ID3. Not entirely sure why, but anyway, let's go to an outro and I'll try and work out why. Whee! So in conclusion, what do I think of the Cupra Born then? Is it better than the Volkswagen ID3? Well, I think I said in the intro, yes, it is. The interior just feels nicer, a bit posher than the one in the ID3. And I think the whole slightly sporty, hot hatchy vibe of this just fits it better. I prefer the way it looks to the Volkswagen as well. It's a cooler colour. 36 grand starting price. That used to feel a bit steep compared to something like a regular Volkswagen Golf, but these days everything is crazy expensive. So 36 grand doesn't seem like too much. Obviously this one is 42, which is quite a lot. Probably wouldn't get a top spec one. Really nice car. It's got a few EV drawbacks. Number one, the suspension can get a bit fidgety and makes you feel a little bit like you've got Yorkshire pudding rattling around in your stomach, but otherwise is good. It's probably my favourite Volkswagen Group hatchback EV. One of the best things about it is the fact that the range readout just tells you what you're actually going to get, and it seems accurate. Even if you sit on the motorway, it drops an appropriate amount, and it always seems to give you the confidence in it, so you're not going to get range anxiety. But anyway, overall, I'm going to give this 7.5 Tim Roadies out of 10, which is worth something, believe you and me. But anyway, if this video has been helpful, please do hit like. It really helps the channel out in the old YouTube algorithm. Who's Al Gore? Why has he got a rhythm? But anyway, go down to the comments, leave me the Spanish word for that's a weird hat, and I'll see you next time. And also go and subscribe as well. Goodbye.